here's an important fact about human attention. People ignore what they don't care about. Okay? If you don't care, you'll just filter it. And there's actually a part of our brains down in the hippocampus that's responsible for doing this.
It's way down here, right?
Yeah, way down here, by the brainstem. And we're taking in information. We're constantly being bombarded by the things that are in our environment. And our brains actively filter things we care about from things we don't care about.
Yeah, it's true.
And so, and you know this about me, I don't care about sports. I don't care. I don't care who's playing today. I don't care who won.
Where they're from.
Yeah, we both went to the University of Cincinnati for school, and they were in the Sugar Bowl?
They were in the Sugar Bowl.
They were in, yeah. They, and I didn't know until like the day before, and it's like, oh, that's good. I don't care. And so, if a professional sports team is advertising to me, I don't care. I'm not going to watch it. I'm not going to go to a sporting event unless I'm going with somebody else who cares. It's just, it's not one of the things that I personally pay attention to. And so all of the, if you watch the news or you read all this stuff, if there's something about a sports team, I just skip it. And it's important to understand that, there are probably things that you're the same way about, that you just don't care about. And if you don't care about it, you don't pay attention to it. So this model is called receptivity. Okay. And receptivity is a measure of how much a person cares. How much someone is interested in information about a specific type of thing. Okay. And the more receptive a person is, the more actively they'll pay attention to something, and the more actively they'll actually seek out information about it. Sure. Okay. Great example. Think of fans of the Harry Potter and more recently the Twilight series. Yes. Okay. We both love Harry Potter, and we planned our last vacation and we went up to Maine, and we specifically stayed at the last town large enough to have a bookstore so we could buy the last book and then read it on vacation.
With all the 12-year-olds who were in capes at midnight.
It was awesome.
There was us.
It was awesome. And, that is receptivity. Like, we were really, really, really interested in that. And so we wanted to learn, like, when is the book coming out? Where is it going to be?
That's what you do on vacation. Come on now. Okay.
So, same thing about Twilight. I mean, if you really want to scare yourself, search for Twilight on Google and find one of these boards, message boards about, all of these 14-year-old girls and sometimes 30-year-old girls that are really into this stuff. And that is the model of receptivity. I mean, rabid fans.
Have you read them though, seriously? They're surprisingly fabulous.
I haven't read them yet. Kelsey says they're great. But, same thing happens. Actually, a good example from business literature, pretty much anything that Seth Godin puts out.
Right, he's got a pretty strong fan base.
He has a rabid fan base that will, essentially instantly catapult something to bestseller status the moment it comes out. I mean, people are very receptive, and there's a certain reason behind why that is, right? Which we'll talk about how that gets built over time. But that's receptivity. The moment there is any piece of information available for something,
right? It's like them pulling it from you rather than it. So I understand in theory why receptivity is a really good thing, obviously. But how do you go about finding people who are receptive, making people receptive?
Yeah, there's actually a couple things. Okay. First is dependent upon the type of value that you're offering.
Well, sure.
Okay, so receptivity has two components. It's what are they being receptive to, and when are they being receptive to it. Okay, so for example, if you have a children's toy, for example, if you don't have kids, you're probably not very receptive to it. Or if you don't have children in your life, right? You don't care. It's not part of your life right now. Okay, and so that's receptivity in terms of what. So if you don't have kids, you're probably not interested. If you do have kids, you probably will be. Okay. The second is when. Okay, so you may be receptive to something when you're in the mode of shopping, for
Sure.
example, or you're actively researching for information. You may not be receptive to a telemarketer calling you at 4 o'clock in the morning to tell you about this great new children's toy.
Of course.
Okay, so receptivity is make sure you're actually talking to the people who want to hear from you, who are receptive to what you have to say, but also you're reaching them exactly when they want to be reached, when they're interested in finding information out about this. And so many companies, great example. I just got the other day an email from the Ford Motor Company
Right.
announcing that their president was going to be speaking at some big trade show, and as a member of the business media, I would want to know about this.
Yes,
well, no.
I'm sure you would.
I don't care. So I wasn't receptive to what they were talking about.
Right.
I also wasn't responding to
When.
where and when
Right.
they were I was checking my email. I was responding to all of you in this course.
Right.
I don't care about the Ford Motor Company right now. If I'm looking for information, then yes, that's when I would be receptive to that. But they reached me in the wrong time and place,
Right.
and because I wasn't receptive, that actually kind of ticked me off.
Right.
And I twittered about it as Ford being a spammer. So receptivity, all of your marketing activities are going to be impacted by the receptivity of your audience. And it used to be that, in the era of 3 major television networks and, the world was a much smaller place, you could afford with effectively spamming the entire country
Right.
with an advertisement and it would work. Now, there are so many things to pay attention to that if your audience isn't receptive, they will tune you out. You're gone.
Exactly.
And you may not get another chance. So, I'm probably not ever going to buy a Ford. And, partly is because I wasn't interested in the first place, but I don't have a good impression of the Ford Motor Company
After that experience.
after this experience.
Right.
So even if they thought that they were, doing good marketing by getting the word out about, this thing that's obviously important to them,
Right.
It actually backfired because I wasn't receptive to it. So, it's people filter out junk mail, people filter out
Right.
spam. So receptivity, to get the attention of the people you want to get the attention of, it pays to invest some time and energy in actually learning about them
Yeah.
and then reaching them in a way that they're likely to be receptive to it in advance. That's one of the reasons why search engine advertising works so well.
True, because people are already searching for something.
Exactly. They're already researching. They're already in the mindset of, I want more information about this. And so even if it's a paid ad, sometimes those can be quite useful. And people are more receptive to getting that type of promotional information if they're actually interested in doing it. One of the good example is, we live out in the country here.
In the mountains.
In the mountains. And we can't get cable or DSL or otherwise high-speed internet service. As of the time of this taping,
Yeah.
we're running our business on dial-up right now.
Painfully running our business.
So I'm actually right now in the process of looking for 2 things. I'm looking for satellite internet connections and I'm looking for T1 connections because those are the only things that can reach out there. Now, when I do that research, do I click on the advertisements on the top and the side of that Google page? You bet. There are people who are trying to get my attention because I'm exactly the person they want to get a hold of. And so that's a good example of being highly receptive. I'm looking for that information. They're giving me an opportunity to get more information. And even though they're paying, it's essentially the same thing as a commercial. It's paid advertising. But I'm receptive to it because it's helpful to me. So as you're trying to get attention, you don't have to do the spam approach. You don't have to try to get the attention of a massive audience and hope just a tiny fraction of them are interested in what you have to say. You can actually think about, okay, who am I talking to? What are they interested in that I have, which is related to the value creation part? And then how can I reach them at a time and in a place and in a way that they're going to be receptive to what I have to say? And if you can do that, your message has a much greater chance of actually being
heard
and paid attention to,
right,
and internalized in a way that makes them interested, that's where the most effective marketing comes from.
Besides search engine optimization, do you have any other ideas of where you can find people who are receptive, or right now, is that pretty much the best way?
That's actually the best way right now to do it on a large scale.
Okay.
I mean, another example is think of something like a trade show where people put up booths about a specific thing.
Okay. Okay.
People go to trade shows sometimes to actually look at the booths. They're actually looking to establish relationships with other folks who are offering specific things or wanting to learn about what's new on offer. So typically, whereas an audience, like if they're in the middle of their office and you give them a call on the phone, they will not be receptive because they're busy.
Right.
They don't want to be reached. Going to a trade, like people will go to trade shows wanting to be advertised
Got
to.
it. Yeah.
So that's another good example of reaching a more receptive audience because they're in a time and a place where they want to see it.
Okay, makes sense.
All right, so pay attention to receptivity, and it'll really pay off. Your marketing will be much more effective if you are able to think about what and when and where the people you're trying to get the attention of, your prospects, want to be reached.
Okay.